I've always held the conviction that the Appalachian Mountains possess a life of their own, not merely teeming with creatures, streams, and ancient woods, but animated by something deeper, something ancient, something that watches. I've caught whispers in those high winds that sound like no human voice, and I've witnessed things that remain unexplainable to this day. Tonight, I aim to recount 3 stories for you, authentic accounts that still send shivers down my spine. They concern individuals who ventured into those mountains and either returned altered or never returned at all. My own tale comes first. The Silent Man on the Trail. It was late October when I chose to trek a lengthy trail section through the Appalachians. The air carried the sharp scent of dying leaves, and the trees were sufficiently bare to allow the wind to whistle hollowly. I was alone on the hike, a decision I'd later recognize as my first error. The sunlight was bright, yet the woods felt heavy that day. The leaves' colors seemed muted, as if viewed through a gray filter. I tried to dismiss the sensation. Sometimes the mountains simply feel peculiar, and those who spend time there learn to disregard it. But then I detected something that halted me instantly. The forest had fallen utterly silent, completely still. No birds, no wind, no squirrels scurrying, not even the dry rustle of leaves on the ground. The world felt paused. That's when I heard it. Footsteps. Initially, they mirrored mine exactly. Whenever I stopped, they stopped. When I quickened my pace, they matched it. I recall turning around and seeing nothing, just the narrow dirt trail disappearing into the woods. I rationalized it as an echo, even though that explanation made little sense out there. The footsteps continued to follow for another mile. My skin prickled, my stomach tight with unease. That's when I laid eyes on him. Approximately 30 yards back, standing in the trail's center, was a man. He wore what appeared to be dark attire, but his features were indistinct, almost as if the air around him shimmered. He simply stood there, arms at his sides, staring directly at me. I called out, "Hey, you lost?" No response. I waved a hand. Nothing. So I resorted to what seemed logical. I walked faster this time. I didn't look back. However, a few minutes later, I couldn't resist. I glanced over my shoulder, and there he was again. Only closer this time, 20 yards, still motionless, still staring. I shouted louder, "Do you need help?" My voice cracked, echoing through the trees. The man reacted not at all, not a twitch. My throat went dry. Every instinct screamed to run, yet I forced myself to maintain a steady pace. Something about him. I felt that if I displayed panic, he'd feed on it. My legs ached to sprint, but my mind insisted, "Don't let him know you're afraid." The trail descended into a ravine, and for a moment, he vanished from view. Relief surged through me. But when I rounded the next bend, he was there, 15 yards. That was when I knew something was terribly wrong. People don't move like that. No one can cover ground that quickly without sound, without me noticing. The sun was now setting, casting long, jagged shadows. I began jogging, then sprinting, my pack thudding against my shoulders. My breath ripped through the silence. But behind me, I was certain I heard something else. Something like whispering. Not words, just a low, sliding sound, almost like leaves being dragged across stone. I didn't halt until I reached a campsite clearing where a few other hikers had pitched tents. I made myself look back down the trail. Empty. That night, lying awake in my tent, I listened. The forest was alive once more. Bugs chirped, owls called. But between those natural sounds, I thought I heard something else. Slow, steady footsteps circling the camp perimeter. At one point, my tent zipper rattled just once, as if brushed by a hand. I held my breath, gripping my pocket knife, listening until my ears rang. Nothing. Just silence. Then, moments later, I heard leaves crunch. 1, 2, 3 deliberate steps right outside my tent. I wanted to shout for the other campers, but I was frozen. My body felt locked, as if even breathing too loud might draw it nearer. When I finally dared to peek through the front mesh, I saw nothing. Just the faint orange glow of another camper's fire through the trees. But then, in that glow, I thought I saw a shape. Not walking, not moving at all, just standing at the light's edge, like a shadow detached from the trees. It was tall, taller than any ordinary man, and it felt wrong somehow. as if its edges lacked solidity. I shut my eyes tight and remained that way until morning. When dawn finally broke, I unzipped my tent, half expecting to see tracks surrounding me, but there was nothing, just leaves and damp earth. I thought perhaps I'd imagined it all, until one of the other hikers asked if I'd been walking near their tent last night. I shook my head. They said they heard heavy footsteps too, crunching leaves mere feet from where they slept. Later that day, while packing up camp, I noticed something odd at the tree line. A single handprint pressed into the dirt. Too large for me. Too large for anyone in our group. The fingers seemed longer than natural. I asked a hiker if they'd ever seen anything similar. The man looked at me for a long moment before whispering quietly, "You're lucky it didn't follow you home." I asked him what he meant. Like, share, and subscribe to Whispers in the Dark to never miss a future horrifying story. Also, tell your favorite part in the comments below. The screaming woman in the hollow. I was staying with a friend near a small Appalachian town, the type where every house has a sagging porch, and the mountains loom so closely they feel like they're breathing down your neck. His family had lived there for generations, and they possess plenty of strange tales. The one they warned me about was the woman in the hollow. They instructed me that if I ever heard screaming from the woods at night, I was not to investigate, no matter what. They said it sounded like a woman in pain, but it wasn't. It was something else, something designed to make you believe it was human. At the time, I dismissed it, assuming it was just local folklore intended to frighten outsiders. But one night, I learned firsthand why people take it so seriously. It was late, likely near midnight. My friend and I had stayed up trading stories in his living room, the wood stove crackling in the corner. He eventually retired to bed, but I wasn't tired. I sat there wrapped in a blanket, listening to the old house's quiet creaks. Outside, the wind whistled through the trees. That's when I heard it, a scream. It sliced through the night so sharply I jumped. It wasn't distant. Perhaps just down the slope behind the house where the hollow began. Initially, I thought it was a fox. Anyone familiar with the woods knows they can sound disturbingly human. But this was different. It wasn't yipping or crying out in short bursts. It was long, drawn out, and filled with a desperation that made my skin crawl. It sounded like a woman pleading for help. I froze, heart pounding, straining to listen. Another scream followed, louder this time, and then words, or something akin to words. It was faint, but I could have sworn I heard someone calling. "Please, someone help me." Every instinct urged me to run and wake my friend. But another part, the part unwilling to appear cowardly, thought, what if it truly is someone out there? What if they are injured? So I grabbed a flashlight from the kitchen counter, slipped on my boots, and stepped outside. The air was damp and cold, the kind that clings to your lungs. The house sat near the edge of a hollow, a deep bowl-shaped valley thick with trees and undergrowth. The screams were definitely emanating from down there. I switched on the flashlight and began descending the slope. The beam sliced through the fog, bouncing off wet leaves and skeletal branches. The sound came again, closer this time. "Help me!" My stomach churned. It sounded so real, so human. But something was amiss. The tone was flat, almost practiced, like someone repeating a line they didn't fully grasp. I continued walking, each step crunching leaves beneath my feet. The further I went, the darker it seemed to grow, as if my flashlight's beam couldn't adequately push back the shadows. Then I noticed something strange. The screams remained identical, the same duration, inflection, rhythm, over and over, as if whoever was calling out wasn't truly in pain, but merely mimicking the sound of pain. That's when the genuine fear set in. I stopped, forcing myself to listen intently. Sure enough, another scream tore through the night, a carbon copy of the last. Same pitch, same desperate tone. My gut screamed to turn back then, but curiosity is a dangerous master. I pressed deeper into the hollow. The ground grew soggy, the air heavier. I felt like I'd stumbled into another world, one where the rules of sound and space were askew. The screams echoed strangely, bouncing off the trees, making it impossible to discern if they were ahead or behind me. I called out, "Hello, where are you?" The forest fell silent. For a moment, I thought maybe I'd imagined the entire encounter, but then, right behind me, a woman's voice whispered, "Help me!" I spun around, the flashlight beam flailing through the trees. Nothing. No one. Just empty woods. My chest tightened. That voice had been so close. Close enough I should have seen someone. But the beam revealed only dripping branches and fog coiling low to the ground. I forced myself to keep moving, my hands trembling so badly the flashlight shook. Another scream ripped through the hollow, this one impossibly loud, like it was right inside my ear. I clapped a hand over my ear, teeth gritted against the piercing sound. And then I saw her. At the base of a tree about 20 yards ahead stood a figure, a woman clad in pale attire, her hair hanging in wet strands over her face. She was turned slightly away from me, but I could see her shoulders shuddering as if sobbing. Relief and terror warred within me. I called out, "Are you hurt? Do you need help?" She ceased moving. The sobbing stopped instantly, replaced by silence so profound it pressed against my skull. Slowly, she turned her head. The flashlight beam caught her face, and my stomach plummeted. Her eyes were wide and glassy, far too large for her face. Her mouth stretched unnaturally, as if unused to forming words. And then she screamed again, the exact same scream I'd been hearing all along, word for word, sound for sound. That was when I realized she wasn't crying out for help. She was luring me in. I stumbled backward, tripping over a root. My flashlight flew from my grasp, spinning across the ground. Darkness consumed me. I scrambled, hands clawing at the wet earth until I retrieved the flashlight and swept it toward the tree. She was gone. The forest was empty, silent. My breath came in ragged gasps, my chest aching as I tried to steady myself. I didn't wait for another sound. I turned and bolted up the slope, half sliding, half running, branches tearing at my arms. Behind me, I thought I heard something moving, heavy footsteps crashing through the undergrowth. But I didn't look back. I didn't stop until I burst through the back door of the house, slamming it shut behind me. My friend came running, demanding to know what had occurred. When I explained, he went pale. He said, "You're lucky. Most people who go down into the hollow don't come back." I wanted to argue, to suggest maybe it was just an animal, or perhaps I'd imagined the entire event. But then, from the woods outside, the scream rang out again. The same scream, the same desperate tone. My friend didn't even glance out the window. He just tossed another log on the fire and muttered, "Don't ever answer it again.